Welcome to the Behind the Girl Boss podcast, where every woman's journey takes center stage. Join us in this safe space as we explore the ins and outs of business, career, mental health, the music industry, and more. Whether you're a go-getter or a dream chaser, we've got stories for you. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for an exclusive backstage pass. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and entertained. Welcome to the ride. Hey everyone, what is up and welcome back to the podcast. You already know what I'm going to say. How the hell are we at the end of March? How is April just around the corner? How is my birthday basically a month away at this point? My birthday is April 27th. How am I turning 26? Like literally so many questions. This is wild. This is wild. We're going to start off with our little mantra of the day. And today's mantra is, I will always be my oldest friend, so I have no choice but to take care of myself. This year, I commit to being my own strongest ally, nurturing my well-being, and advocating for my needs. I saw this and I really did think it resonates with this episode really well. And I really do think you guys will understand why in a second. So again, I will always be my oldest friend, so I have no choice but to take care of myself. This year, I commit to being my own strongest ally, nurturing my well-being, and advocating for my needs. I love it, and it really resonates with the episode, and it's really good. It's a really good mantra. But I'm very excited for you guys to listen to today's episode. Today on the podcast, we had Nuna. Nuna is a mindset and empowerment coach. Her goal is to improve relationships, to help people feel confident in their own skin, and be the unshakable baddie who attracts what she wants. We had such a fun conversation. We spoke all about spirituality. We spoke about body empowerment, loving your body. We spoke about not judging others. We spoke about what it's like being a body and mindset coach and dealing with other people's struggles and helping them out after she actually struggled with her own eating disorder. It was a very insightful conversation, and I really felt touched by what we were speaking about. Without further ado, let's jump right into the episode. Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to the podcast. Today we have another guest. Do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Hey, yeah, so I am Nuna. I am a mindset and empowerment coach, and I help women feel confident in their own skin, improve relationships with themselves, with other people, romantic relationships too, and also just like become that unshakable baddie that goes after what she wants and attracts what she deserves as well. So I do retreats, I do like one-to-one coaching, I create loads of educational content through like blogs and articles and Instagram stuff. But yeah, that's a bit about me and what I do, I guess.
I'm excited to dive into all that with you. But before you do that, I like to do a little hot seat segment to kind of just break the ice and know little fun facts. So the first one is, if you could pick up and move anywhere, where would it be?
So this is funny because I actually did that 2 years ago, and now I live in Bali.
Mm-hmm.
So before, like I grew up in England, and I was living in London, and I just for some reason was like, no, I've had enough now. I need to leave. And I was hosting a retreat in Bali anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what if I just don't come back after the retreat? And I did that. I pretty much just packed up all my stuff and left. And now I've been in Bali for almost 2 years.
What has the transition been like? Because I feel like, especially weather, I feel like London was very like gloomy and Bali is very not like that. So how was the transition for you for that?
It was amazing. Like it's everything that I ever dreamed about, like palm trees, warm air, sunshine. Like I always felt like I was meant to be in the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
And now I wake up every morning, I look out and I'm like, I literally like I'm a jungle girl.
No, I love that.
Yeah, it's like a dream come true.
I love that for you. The next one is, do you have a life mantra or motto that you live by?
Yeah, I mean, I have loads. I have so many. But if I'm going to choose one, and I think this one has probably changed the way that life affects me, is you can always turn a loss into a lesson. and that makes it a win, right?
Yeah.
So it's not really a loss anymore. And I think once I started like embodying that and like adopting that kind of mindset, I almost got to the point where I was like welcoming challenges
Yeah.
and hard situations, because I knew that that was an opportunity for me to grow and, you know, get to the next level of my growth and stuff. So I think that one for me has changed a lot.
Yeah. I love that. And then the last one is, who's a celebrity or creator that always keeps you inspired?
Again, there's so many, and I all like them for that. Like I'm inspired by everyone from like different angles,
Yeah.
but I think Sahara Rose is, I don't know if she's a celebrity, but she is a creator on Instagram. Do you know who she is?
No.
So I actually met her here in Bali, and
Okay.
I didn't know anything about the work that she does. And then when I followed her on Instagram, ever since I've just been like a fangirl. And I think what inspired me about her is she kind of creates a bridge between like spirituality and like just being like a normal 20 or 20 to 30-year-old girl, you know, like
Hmm.
that. Because I think when I first started being a bit more spiritual and opening myself up to it, it felt like I couldn't be two people. It felt like I couldn't be spiritual and like a fun-loving
Yeah.
girl who likes makeup
You have to
and
pick one or the other.
exactly. And what Sahara Rose does is she makes spirituality really relatable. And I really appreciate her for that, because it's made me feel like, hang on, there is no box that I need to be in. I
Yeah.
can just do it my way. And I think she also gives me and other women permission to just be yourself and like shine in your authentic power. And I talk a lot about that in my work as well, because you can actually gain so much from just being yourself. And that's like deeper connections, you build more trust with people, and it just creates so much freedom in your life.
Yeah.
And you attract like the right people, the right opportunities, and everything just feels so much more aligned.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I love that. And talking about social media and content and being content creators and all that, we do share a lot of our lives online. So I wanted to ask, what's something that you do for fun that many people may not know that you actually do?
that's an interesting question, because I share pretty much everything about
Hmm.
myself.
Yeah, no, me too. So sometimes even when I would think about it for myself, I'm like, I really have to think really hard to like be like, what would people like not actually know? Because I share so much.
Yeah, I guess maybe I don't share enough about how much I love to dance.
Hmm.
And I'm not like a great dancer. I only recently started having that freedom in my body. And I think
Hmm.
the reason why I love it so much and it means so much to me now is because I couldn't dance until like 2 years ago, because one, I thought it was because I was a bad dancer, but really it was because I didn't have that kind of freedom within me. And I was always so worried about what other people would think.
Hmm.
And I was kind of suppressing like my femininity and being able to like move my hips. And
Yeah.
I think my journey of self-development has also kind of like coincided with my ability to let go and just like dance authentically and not care what anyone thinks. So yeah, I'm the kind of person that just will dance for like 2 hours in my room in the morning in front of the mirror and have the best time of my life.
That sounds like a very good morning routine. Um, so growing up, did you always envision yourself in the business and spirituality space, or did you have a whole different career path in mind?
No, like this is a complete like U-turn what I'm doing right now. So I come from a very like scientific family,
Okay.
and my dad was a civil engineer, and you know, in his eyes, if you do science or I don't know, law or whatever, then you know, you're accepted as, you know, a good daughter.
Hmm.
And I did really love science too. Like I studied biochemistry in my undergrad, and then I think what happened was at the time I always pictured myself working in like a big corporation and like working myself to the top of the company and, you know, being this like boss bitch who works in an
Yeah.
office. And obviously now looking back, I'm like, it so obviously wasn't my dream. It wasn't, you know, it was kind of like what I thought would make me look good,
Yeah.
or like people would accept me that way, and like society was like that at the time and kind of still is, to be honest. And then what happened was I, through a lot of my teenage years and early 20s, I had an eating disorder. So my body image was like really poor.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship I had with myself was really kind of like very low self-worth. And it really affected my relationship with food. But I didn't know that at the time. I thought it was normal for everyone to be so anal about what they eat and counting calories and weighing themselves constantly. And, you know, so I went and did a master's in nutrition because I was like, I want to be a nutritionist, thinking that I know everything about, you know, nutrition and health
Yeah.
because it's constantly dieting. And obviously it turns out that like health is nothing to do with like, you know, dieting. It's actually so much more than that. But that's why I went into nutrition, because of an unhealthy obsession. And when I came out of uni, I was like helping people lose weight, and I looked at myself for a second and I thought, there's a reason why I binge eat, because I wasn't born a binge eater. Like this is something that developed like
Yeah.
teen years. There's a reason why I yo-yo in weight multiple times a year. Like I can never be a stable weight. And then I would look towards my future and I'd be like, oh my God, am I going to be 50 and still be like missing out on all the food that everyone else can eat, like cutting out carbs? Like, is this going to be me forever? Like, am I really going to be on a diet for the rest of my life? And I think I started to want more out of life and
Mm-hmm.
started to see that there was, even though I'd been in this eating disorder for like 10 years, maybe more, I think I started to just feel like surely there's more than this.
Yeah.
So I healed my relationship with food over a couple of years. And then I went into helping women do the same. So like working with their body image and helping them stop binge eating and have more kind of like a natural, intuitive flow with food.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I realized was that I was not really even talking about food with these women. And the main topic of conversation was their relationship to themselves and self-love and valuing themselves outside of their appearance, and the thoughts that were going on in their head, and you know why they needed so much external validation from other people. And I started to realize, hang on, there are other women out there who are also suffering from this, but it's just manifesting in a different way. Maybe it's not an eating disorder for them, maybe it's not binge eating, maybe toxic relationships, or you know, maybe they're holding themselves back and self-sabotage. So I was like, right, I changed my brand from Nuna's Nutrition to Mind, Body and Me. And I decided to work with all women who want to feel more confident, want to have a better relationship with themselves, and know that there's something more out there for them in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, for sure. And going off that, what role does your own mindset kind of play in achieving personal and professional success and goals?
Well, everything that we do comes from our thoughts or our feelings. And the things that we're saying to ourselves, they have a direct impact on what we're
Mhm.
doing, right? So
Yeah.
like even the things that we're not saying that we just believe, you know, like core beliefs that we've developed in our childhood that we're not even aware of, that
Yeah.
is dictating your identity and how you're living your life. So mindset is everything at the end of the day, because if you put your mind to something, you know that you can do it. And there's a very interesting book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady who wrote it, and I can't remember her name, but it's a really good book. She speaks about how the power of words actually has a physical effect on our bodies. And she describes a experiment where she had some students in a classroom, and she told them to like put their arms up in front of them and tell themselves either I'm weak, or I'm strong. And they didn't share with her which one they said, just to keep it fair. And the results of the experiment was the students that were telling themselves, I'm strong, when she would like push down on their arms, were more able to keep their arms up than when they said, I'm weak. So it just highlights like whatever you're saying to yourself, you're literally telling your body to behave that way.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to harness your mindset. And it's not even just about going after things, it's also how you react to things that are happening around you. Because at the end of the day, we don't have full control of our environment, right? We don't have much control at all, actually. The only thing that we have control of is ourselves.
Yeah.
So, you know, life gets so much easier, so much smoother when you realize that you have you can actually like you can control the way that you react to a situation, and that's what sets you free from the situation, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, 100%. And when you're working with clients, how do you kind of support them in setting and achieving their goals through your empowerment coaching?
There are so many tools, and it really just okay, I guess there's a few stages that I take them through. And I have like a signature, I guess, what would you call it? Like a signature process.
Yeah.
So the first one is like when I speak to someone or when we come on my retreats, we want to connect with ourselves. So really understanding who we are, what our values are, what we want our lives to look like, so that you have a clear direction of like where you want to go. And it also makes it so much easier to make decisions when you know who you are and what you care about and what your values are, because there's not so much back and forth anymore. You're like, okay, I know that I live my life by this, so I'm going to make this decision. So connecting with yourself, connecting with your values, your identity, it's really important to have a strong identity when it comes to building up your self-worth. And then number two is like reflecting and releasing trauma. So we don't realize, but things that happen in our childhood are still holding us back today, and it kind of manifests as self-sabotage, because you form your beliefs as a child. So, you know, if your parents were constantly criticizing you that you're not good enough, you're going to grow up telling yourself you're not good enough and hold yourself back in that way. So I do a lot of like inner child healing and kind of releasing those blocks from your mindset and those limiting beliefs, we call them, because they limit you from, you know, achieving your goals. And just releasing them. And I do that through like meditations and through on my retreats we do breath work as well, which is kind of like a practical way to release trauma from the body. And then number three, so it goes connect, reflect and release, rediscover. So we go through parts of yourself that you may be suppressing. As women, this tends to be quite a big part of our femininity. And because we're living in a patriarchal world, there's so many things that we've suppressed as women in terms of like I don't know, emotions, our sexuality. So kind of like getting to that process of finding that inner fire that you've kind of been dwindling. And then the fourth one is empower. So for me, it's really important to empower my clients with tools that they can go away and do like without me, there's
Yeah.
no point hiring me and then, having to work with me for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So this kind of section is all about emotions, because people have a very big misunderstanding of emotions and what they're really about. Just to summarize, the first step is connecting. The second step is reflecting and releasing like the past trauma that's holding you back, that we all have, by the way. And then the third one is rediscovering the parts of you that have been suppressed, with that, whether that's like emotions or your femininity, because as women, like we have been suppressing a lot of kind of like parts of ourselves because of
Yeah.
the world that we live in. And then the fourth one is empower. So being able to regulate your emotions, understand your emotions, and work with them so that they're no longer holding you back,
Mm-hmm.
actually helping you react in a very healthy way and in a productive way with your environment. And then the fifth one is reignite. So I call it reignite because to me, all of this is about reigniting your inner fire, like your feminine
Yeah.
fire, your unique, authentic power. And kind of the last stage is about reconnecting with your like motivation to go after what you want and knowing what you deserve and having that like, yeah, I guess it is that inner fire and motivation to be like, no, I deserve this. I'm going to go after it. I'm going to speak my truth. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to settle for less. And kind of like embodying that bad bitch kind of mentality.
Yeah, for sure. And have you seen any like common struggles or obstacles that women face like on the daily through your work?
I think the biggest thing is caring what other people think.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that too.
Yeah, and I have to say that it's natural, because obviously as humans, like innately we want to be accepted by our community, and it's like a survival mechanism, right? So it's natural, but sometimes, well, I think a lot of the time it is just self-sabotage, and it's holding people back
Yeah.
so much from just being themselves, going after what they want, showing up, and being authentic, making really deep connections with people. Because if you're not yourself, you're not really, I always use this saying because I see it on Instagram all the time, but your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So
Hmm.
if you're like dimming your authenticity and your light, like you're gonna just be friends with anyone and like everyone, but you might not make like the deep, meaningful connections where people truly appreciate you for your like unique self. And it also stops you from like using your voice to set boundaries and demand more from like say relationships or in work. So when you stop caring so much about what other people think, honestly, the sky becomes the limit. Like there's so much that you can do. There's so much freedom, there's so much opportunity that
Yeah.
comes your way. So yeah.
Yeah. And when we talk about self-acceptance, what does that mean to you? And why do you think accepting yourself fully just helps with overall well-being?
Yeah, I think, from my own experience and like the women that I've worked with, not accepting yourself drains so much energy from
Yeah.
life, because you're in a chasing mindset. So nothing, like it's like you need things to be happy, if
Hmm.
that makes sense. So you're constantly like, what can I change that's going to change my life? I'm going to feel so much happier. Um, And the problem is that because you're not self-accepting, like you're always chasing and like things never actually fully satisfy you because you're actually just lacking acceptance from yourself.
Yeah.
So the work is internal. But what I would say is with self-acceptance, it's like it's creating peace within you because you don't need to change anything. And it's such a lack of friction between who you are and what you need to be happy. So what I would say is that, like, with women who don't accept themselves, they're anxious a lot because they're constantly thinking about what more they could have, or why someone doesn't like them, or why they're not
Yeah.
good enough. And you could use that thinking space for so many bigger, like, opportunities and missions and purposes in your life, and it really consumes you when you don't accept yourself.
Yeah. And what kind of roles do you think like societal norms and social media and the media kind of play into, I guess, like women's body image or overall like self-confidence? Because I know for myself, I like struggle a lot with like what you were saying, like eating and what foods I put into my body. And also in my head, a lot of the time, I'm always like, okay, like I'll be happy with myself and my body once I look like this. But then sometimes I'm like, who says I'm actually gonna be happy when if I look like that, you know? So like what do you think that all has to like do together?
Yeah, I think the role that society and the media has played is that it's taught us that our value comes from our appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like the most shallow thing to put our bodies value down to, because our bodies are fucking incredible. Sorry for
No, you can
swearing.
swear, it's okay.
But as I said, I studied biochemistry, right? And I used to sit in my lectures and be like mind blown, like, oh my God, our bodies do that? Like
Mm-hmm.
that is crazy. Our bodies are constantly working in like the most magical miracle way, like clockwork, keeping us alive, helping us move, helping us achieve our goals. Our bodies work for our minds. Without the body, our mind wouldn't be able to do anything.
Yeah.
The fact that society and the media and all of this makes us forget all of that and focus on shrinking our bodies so that we look good is just like such a disrespect to what our bodies can do and what our bodies are really about.
Mm-hmm.
So the work that I do with my clients on body image is really a relationship with your body where you start to appreciate it for what it can do. You start to shift the focus from away from what it looks like and more like, how can I do things for my body because I want it to be happy. I want it to
Yeah.
function well. I want it to be, thriving. And I don't do so much intuitive eating work anymore, but like when I used to, it switches up the whole game, right? Because you're no longer feeding yourself based on what someone told you is good for your body. You actually start building a relationship with your body where you understand what it needs and what it
Mm-hmm.
wants. And the problem with diet culture and the media and all of that is it gives us a one size fits all. And
Yeah.
you know what my grandma said to me the other day? I don't know what to eat anymore because online it says that I should eat that, but I shouldn't eat this, and everything's so
Mm-hmm.
conflicting. No one actually knows what rules to follow anymore. And I'm like, this is why the wisdom of your body is the most important thing that you can tap into, because one, our bodies all need different things, different amounts of food. We all have different lives. So you can't replicate someone else's
Yeah.
diet. And two, like our body has signals for a reason. That hunger that you feel, that tiredness that you feel, all these things that I could actually go into more detail, but there's so many nuanced signals that we are taught to ignore because um, we're basically conditioned to think with our head, with our minds about what to eat. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's lunchtime, I need to eat lunchtime at lunch. It's dinner, I need to eat dinner. When actually your body is constantly telling you what it wants and what it doesn't want. and you have to listen to it.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that answered your question. I
Yeah.
think I went on a tangent.
No, no, it's okay. No, I totally agree. Even like sometimes for me, like I was in this stage where I would like search up like what's good to eat for like this. And then I would get like so many different answers. And like some people were like, oh, like this is really good to eat. And then other people were like, oh, this is really bad to eat. And I would get so confused that because I'm like, at the end of the day, like I have no idea like what which was good or what was bad. So I did start to like just formulate my own opinions on things. But yeah, I feel like the internet too, sometimes people will just say whatever. And we listen to them sometimes.
Yeah, and I think this is what would make a good like nutritionist or I don't know, I think PTs now give some like nutrition advice. I honestly don't think it's helpful to force a diet on anyone.
Hmm.
The way that you can empower a client is to help them figure out what is best for them and empower them to like try different things and guide them in a way that's like, if you don't eat this, it doesn't mean that you're unhealthy, but
Yeah.
try it. If you like it, if it works with your body, then great, like carry on. But food is not just about fuel, it's not just about health,
Hmm.
it's also about enjoyment. Like we have taste buds for a reason, right? We're supposed to enjoy our food, otherwise we wouldn't have them.
Yeah.
So in like enjoying food in terms of like cultural, fun, emotional eating is not a bad thing. It's just that when we don't know how to manage our emotions, that's when we can turn to food and then it becomes like an unhealthy way of coping.
Hmm.
But honestly, like when I was working with clients on binge eating and stuff, it's not that the food was the problem. It was honestly that they had emotional struggles that they hadn't learned to cope with. It's so easy to judge people who are living in bigger bodies. And I think
Hmm.
society kind of conditioned us to be like, oh, they're just greedy or they don't know how
Yeah.
to stop eating. When actually, if you have a bit more compassion for these people, they're probably struggling emotionally with something and they've never been taught how to deal with it, or that they can't ask for help. And food is the only comfort that they can find, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's not the only reason why people like gain a lot of weight. Like there's so much more to it. But one of the things that really like switched for me when I started learning about like intuitive eating and the emotional tie with food is like you can't judge anyone who's gained weight because you don't know what's going on in their
Yeah.
lives. And a lot of the time people gain weight when they're actually really happy.
Yeah.
Like when you go traveling and you're trying different foods and you're exploring life and you're not stressed anymore, people tend to gain weight. But we've been taught in the society that thin people are like of a higher status.
Yeah.
And there's so many reasons that go back to like white supremacy, to why thinner bodies are like more valued over bigger bodies. And there's an incredible book that kind of highlights this. I think I'm gonna I might have to get back to you on that and
Hmm.
send it to you and you can put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But the whole like health system is so biased towards like um basically white supremacy from like years ago. And that's the reason why we have biases in terms of like fat bias and
Hmm.
thin bias. Um, but yeah, it's such an interesting topic.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of the times, like you were saying, like people when they're in bigger bodies, people are just like, oh, like just eat less or like, oh, like you should work out. When I'm sure like there's so many, like you were saying, so many other reasons. And just because someone is in a bigger body doesn't mean that they're one like eating bad or two that they're not working out or being active. Like sometimes people can't lose weight for like health conditions and things like that. So I agree, like we should never judge someone because you never know what they're going through. And at the end of the day, like I'm sure you don't want to be judged, so why are you judging other people?
Yeah, and I have honestly found that when you judge someone for something, you're judging yourself. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, like say I look at someone and I'm like, oh, they've put on weight and I kind of judge them for it. Okay, say in 5 years' time I put on weight too. I'm
Yeah.
going to be judging myself and hating myself, right? And I think that life does do that to you. It throws you curveballs, like things that you used to judge in other people. It tends to come back, and then you have to learn to like not judge that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, if the less judgment you have on others, the more self-accepting you are. And I think it really does show when someone is very judgmental, they tend to be very harsh on themselves too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And I wanted to ask, how do you kind of protect your own mental health and well-being overall? Because you did struggle with an eating disorder and talking to people about their body and everything like that, I feel like could be a bit of a mental strain as well. So how do you kind of protect yourself?
I'm just super aware. Like
Hmm.
I think it's so funny because I kind of see my life as like before therapy and after therapy.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've had therapy before.
I'm in therapy still right
Oh,
now
you're
too.
therapy. Okay, yeah. Because before therapy, I think I was just living my life on like autopilot. I really wasn't like questioning things or trying to understand
Yeah.
myself. Um, and since going to therapy and kind of starting such a amazing self-development kind of journey, I'm just so much more aware of my feelings, my
Hmm.
reactions, why I feel certain ways, why I'm reacting certain ways, what I want, like all these things. And I think the first step of being able to protect that is to notice like when I'm not feeling good.
Yeah.
And, like kind of it's been also a journey of like understanding what works for me. So I think journaling has been a big one. Like when
Hmm.
I'm overwhelmed, when there's a lot of things going on in my head, when I'm worried, when I'm, thinking lots of stuff, just putting it on a piece of paper just relieves so much of the load.
Yeah.
And, whether it's in like dating or like work or friendships, like when I need to say something to someone or someone has like, I don't know, triggered me in some way, writing down what I want to say to them is just like, oh, it's just an
Yeah.
amazing exercise. And a lot of people think like you have to journal every day. I don't journal every day, actually. I use it as a tool to process an emotion or to process like thoughts if I don't even know
Yeah.
what I'm thinking, but I just feel
Yeah.
like negative in some way. So I think yeah, that's my tool.
Yeah. I love that. The last part of our podcast, I asked people on Instagram to ask you questions, and I picked two of my favorite ones. So the first one is, were you ever hesitant about sharing so much about your life online?
About my love life,
I know, just about your life.
about
I
my
guess love
life.
life can be in there too, but yeah.
Um, well, it's been like what, like 4 years now that I've been using my Instagram as a
Hmm.
platform, like to help other people. And definitely at the beginning, I was hesitant because I cared about what people thought of me, like
Hmm.
I think this journey of my business has been being able to remove my ego from my mission, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. So there's still points every now and then where I'm like about to upload something and I'm like, should I? Then I'm like, look, if it's going to help one person, then
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't need someone to approve of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%. No, I agree.
That's
I feel like a lot of people who share a lot of their lives online at the beginning, especially, you're kind of like nervous or like, oh, what are people going to think of me? But after a while, once you start seeing the impact you do have on people, I feel like that motivates me a lot. Because even now, like you were saying, like I've been doing this for too many years at this point. Um, and I still get like, oh my God, like, should I say this? Should I share that? Like, But at the end of the day, like you said, if one person feels good after I share something, like that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like definitely the last year, I've really like one of my values has been authenticity. Like I
Mm-hmm.
really discovered that as a value. And if I ever question whether to upload something, I'm like, well, I'm being authentic.
Yeah.
So if I upload it and someone doesn't like it, then they're not for me. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to hide parts of myself because I'm worried about what people think. So
Mm.
like when it comes to values, and I said this right at the beginning of the podcast, right? If you know your values, it's so much easier to take action and make decisions because you want to live your life by your values. And
Yeah.
and that's what I kind of explain that in terms of like the authenticity, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then the last question is, what's your favorite part about your career path at the moment?
Oh, there's so many things. I love working with women and I love feeling from them like the the empowerment, the release, they're like, oh my God, I finally feel like I can do
Mm-hmm.
this, you know. I also love, as I said, my brand is called Mind Body Me. And as a scientist, like obviously I did biochemistry, I understand the nervous system and like all the kind of like, I guess, physical sciencey
Yeah.
stuff, which I always loved so much. But now I'm working with mindset and emotions and seeing the connection between the two, how like emotions actually come up physically in your body and physiologically they have a role in like our survival, and how your nervous system is, so connected to your sense of self, your
Mhm.
trauma, your mind. Like the connection for me is like, oh my God, this is like a dream come true. I can be a science girl and be a spiritual
Yeah.
mindset coach as well. So yeah, I love that part of it.
Yeah. Well, that's all I had for you today. So thank you so much again for coming on. Before you leave, do you want to shout out any of your socials, where people can find you, where they can work with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at nuna.mindbodymE. So I work one-to-one with women. At the moment, I have a retreat coming up in end of April, but if you're listening to this when it's too late, I do a couple of retreats a year. So just check out my page. And I do some online events and workshops, and I've done an online retreat before, and that was amazing too. So I'll probably do one again soon. But yeah, just DM me if you have any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to go follow Nuna on all her socials. Go show her some love, support. Maybe you'll go to her next retreat. Let me know if you do. If you want to follow me, please don't be shy. You can follow me either at Behind the Girl Boss or at It's Amanda Wan. You can check out my YouTube channel, It's Amanda Wan. I post every single week on there. And I will see you guys in April. Oh my God. Bye, guys. Talk to you later.